this whole series. Last week was so powerful where we poured out some offense and we had a great experience, but so many of us probably have been offended in those 7 days since because the human experience is full of offense. So what do we do? Now what do we do? I poured out my offense once. What do you want me to do now, Jesus? Here's your next fill, and it's the main thought for today. Keep pouring out the poison. Keep pouring out the poison. What you do next after you feel offended again, once that glass is served, maybe it's fancy glass, maybe it's just a good old regular little cup, took the cap off. Go ahead, aren't you thirsty? You want a little bit? What are you going to do when somebody hands you that glass of offense? Because here's what you did. The last time you poured it out, here's a new one. Same decision. Drink it, pour it. And so we have to ask ourselves, how many times do I have to drink the offense that's in front of me? Can I just leave them on the table? Can I come back to them later? Maybe when Pastor Chris does another sermon on forgiveness in a year and a half, I'll have a great event where I'll come to the front and pour out my poison again. And in the meantime, we're collecting our little cups of poison, and we're wondering when we're going to get to pour them out. We're like, God, I hope you give me the opportunity to pour out my little poison bottles because I've been accumulating a lot of them. I don't think it's me. I think it's other people. They're just terrible. You know how it goes. And all of a sudden, we come to church, and we're trying to praise God, and we can't actually raise our hands in worship because we got our little bottles of offense. They're taking up some space in our lives, and it's kind of hard to raise your hands to God when your lives are full of offense. What are you going to do with it? You can drink it, you can pour it out. And so that's going to be our decision, not just this week, not just Sunday. What are you going to do with the offenses that people bring to you? Because they're not going to stop coming. The question is, are you going to stop pouring? And so my challenge for us today is to keep pouring out offense. And I know you ask the same question I do because I'm kind of a pragmatist. God, how many times? Like, how many times do I have to forgive people? Like, I know that Jesus is good on forgiveness. It's a big part of following him. But don't you think like 2 or 3 times is enough? How many times should I forgive? And I love this because the Apostle Paul actually Peter asked this question. I love Peter. Big foot and mouth, big brash guy, just says what he's thinking, right? And he actually asked Jesus, how many times do I have to forgive people? Have you ever wondered? How many of you have thought in your mind, Jesus, how many times do I have to forgive that person in my life? The Bible has an answer. Matthew 18:21 says this, Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? ? It's so genuine, right? Jesus, just tell me, what's the minimum I have to do to be good with you? Just tell me how many times I can hate somebody and still be okay in your book. Like, I know it's forgive those as you've forgiven me, but you don't know them, what they said to me, what they said about my mama. It's really one of those things where I feel like they deserve it. 7 times, which is generous, by the way, because rabbis of the time would say, listen, forgive somebody 2 times, forgive somebody 3 times, turn the other cheek, you have 2 cheeks, 4 if you're feeling generous. How many times in order to still be your disciple, do I have to forgive somebody who hurt me, who sinned against me, who was mean to me? How many times do I have to forgive my boss or that loud coworker or my in-law? How many times do I have to forgive that guy with the BMW whose car didn't come with a blinker? How many times do I have to, in my heart, pour out offense? And Jesus' answer to this interesting question is that he shares a parable. Not a direct answer, because Jesus rarely actually gives us the answer we want. In fact, Jesus asked almost 6 times more questions than he gave answers. And so he actually tells a story that had a principle. And he sets it up this way in verse 22. Jesus answered, I tell you not 7 times, but 77. And then he tells this parable. Jesus was literally saying, Peter, here's what I need you to do. I need you to take the poison, and instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, these are my select poisons. Instead of saying these are the ones I'm going to keep, I need you to go ahead and decide to pour out the poison. And here's a better idea. Instead of counting to 7, why don't you stop counting? Instead of saying, Jesus, how many do I need to do? How about you just live a lifestyle of forgiving and just over and over and over. When they hand you a glass, you say, thank you, that was nice of you. All right, see you later. How about instead of saying, I'm counting my forgiveness this week, or I'm counting my forgiveness today, or I'm counting my forgiveness this year, instead of counting to 7, choose to live a lifestyle of you hand it to me, thank you, sir. I'm going to pour it out because I can't have it sitting around on my table. I don't want it to be there. They pour an offense, you pour it out.